And welcome back to, wow, that was really weak, wasn't it?
Yep.
What happened? Shabbat Shalom! And welcome back to the Way of Truth through Torah. And guys, today is going to be a fun day. It's going to be a long day, but it's going to be a fun day. And by the time we get downstairs, that food that we smell cooking, it's going to be worth it, okay? My question today is, how important is it the way you raise your children, the morals you teach them, the lessons you teach them, and the people you allow them to hang out with? I'm going to tell you something. When we look at Abraham, you're going to be surprised. I hope. Well, a lot of you won't because you've been in my class a long time. Okay. We're going to kick this off right now. We're going to Genesis 11. We're starting in 24. And I'm just going to go into it. Y'all ready?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
How about you live streamers? Valerie will be with us today. So if y'all want to say anything ugly to her or sweet to her. Sweet. So I called her and I was like, I love you. I miss you. But I've replaced you. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
Replaceable.
And no, she is not replaceable. And Nahor lived 29 years and brought forth Terah. And after he brought forth Terah, Nahor lived 119 years and brought forth sons and daughters. And Terah, who is Terah? Abram's father. And Terah lived 70 years and brought forth Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And this is the genealogy of Terah. Terah brought forth Abram, Nahor, and Haran brought forth Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his birth, in the Ur of Kasdim. And the Ur is fire, and the fires of Kasdim. And Abraham and Nahor took wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Yishka. So Yishka sounds like another daughter, doesn't it? But that means Sarai. It means my princess. Okay? So that was his, just like we saw Yahsher for Israel. It's a loving way that Yah referred to Israel. Same way with Sarai, my princess. And Sarai was barren, and she had no children. And Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and they went out with them from the Ur of Kasdim to go to the land of Canaan. And they came to Haran and dwelt there. I'm going to tell you, I believe that Haran was named after Terah's son, because when they came here, Haran was already dead. Okay? And the days of Terah came to be 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. 12:1. And Yahweh said to Abram, go yourself out of your land, from your relatives, and from your father's house, to a land which I will show you. And I shall make you a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I shall bless those who bless you, and curse him who curses you. And in you all the clans of the earth shall be blessed. So Abram left as Yahweh had commanded him, and Lot went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. We're 75. What happened? Where did all these years go, right? Okay. Oh no. They went to Yahsher. So we are going to Yahsher, to chapter 8. And so guys, I am going to be skipping through here. But I'm going to read a lot. So I want you to see the amazing story of Abraham. I've got to get a new Bible that doesn't weigh 10 pounds. Okay, are you ready? Okay, and it was in the night that Abram was born that all the servants of Terah and all the wise men of Nimrod and his counselors came and ate and drank at the house of Terah. They rejoiced with him on that night, and when all the wise men and conjurers went out from the house of Terah, they lifted up their eyes toward the heaven that night to look at the stars, and they saw, behold, one very large star came from the east, ran across the heavens, and it swallowed up 4 stars from 4 sides of the heavens. And all the wise men of the king and his conjurers were astonished at the sight. And the sages understood this matter, and they knew its importance. And they said to each other, this only betokens the child that has been born to Terach this night, who will grow up, be fruitful, multiply, and possess all the earth. He and his children forever, and he and his seed will slay great kings and inherit their lands. And the wise men and conjurers went home that night, and in the morning all these wise men and conjurers rose up early, assembled in an appointed house, and they spoke and they said to each other, Behold, the sight we saw last night is hidden from the king, and it has not been made known to him. So they are going to go and tell Nimrod. Who was Nimrod? Who's his daddy? Who? Ham. Ham. So Ham was his father. He was in Ham's lineage. Okay. And so they did so. In verse 8, they did so, and they all went to the king and bowed down to him on the ground, and they said, May the king live, may the king live. We heard that a son was born to Terach, the son of Nachor, the prince of your host, and we yesternight came to his house, and we ate and drank and rejoiced with him that night. And when your servants went out from the house of Terach to go to our respective homes to abide there for the night, we lifted up our eyes to heaven, and we saw a great star coming from the east, and the same star ran with great speed and swallowed up 4 stars from the 4 sides of the heavens. And your servants were astonished at the sight when we saw, and were greatly terrified, and made our judgment upon the sight. And we knew by our wisdom the proper interpretation thereof, that this thing applies to the child that is born to Terach, who will grow up, multiply greatly, and become powerful, and kill all the kings of the earth, and inherit all their lands, he and his seed forever. This prophecy that they're talking about, listen, it goes all the way to the end time, doesn't it? Everything will be destroyed by Abraham's seed. That's pretty cool. And now our Adonai and King, behold, we have truly acquainted you with what we have seen concerning this child. And if it seems good to the king to have his father value for the child, to give his father value for the child, we will slay him before he shall grow up and increase in the land, and his evil increase against us, that we and our children perish through his evil. So they're like, this boy is going to grow into something huge. He is literally, what they just said is he's going to take over the whole world. He's going to overthrow every single nation. His seed will. So they're like, before he gets big enough to do all this, we just need to put him down like a bad horse, right? But he's got a daddy. The king heard their words, and they seemed good in his sight, and he sent and called for Terach. And Terach came before the king, and the king said to Terach, I have been told that a son was born yesternight to you. And after this manner was observed in the heavens of his birth. And now therefore, give me that child, that we may slay him. Guys, he just makes it sound like it's a bad pet, right? This is Terach's son, his 3rd son. He's the youngest. That we may slay him before his evil springs up against us, and I will give you for his value your house full of silver and gold. And Terach was a very wise man, which is the reason that he was so important to King Nimrod. He made all of Nimrod's little g gods. All the idols that Nimrod used in all the land of Shinar used came from Terach. He made it all. Terach answered the king, and he said to him, My Adonai King, I have heard your words, and your servant shall do all that the king desires. But my Adonai King, I will tell you what happened to me yesterday. I'm going to just say yesterday night. I can't say yesterday. That I may see what advice the king will give his servant, and then I will answer the king upon what he has just spoken. And the king said, Speak. And Terach said to the king, Aon, son of Mored, came to me yesterday night, saying, Give unto me the great and beautiful horse that the king gave you, and I will give you silver and gold, and straw and provender for its value. And I said to him, Wait till I see the king concerning your works, and behold, whatsoever the king says, that I will do. And now, my Adonai King, behold, I have made this thing known to you, and the advice which my king will give unto his servant, that I shall follow. The king heard the words of Terach, and his anger was kindled, and he considered him in the light of a fool. And the king answered Terach, and he said, Are you silly? Are you ignorant? Are you deficient in understanding? this is over his prize horse. He's like, are you stupid? That's really what he's saying, right? Are you stupid? He said, to do this thing, to give your beautiful horse for silver and gold, or even for straw and provender? Are you so short of silver and gold that you should do this thing? Because you cannot obtain straw and provender to feed your horse? And what is silver and gold to you, or straw and provender, that you should give away that fine horse which I gave you, like which there is none to be had in the whole earth? And the king left off speaking, and Tarak answered the king, saying, like unto this has the king spoken to his servant. I mean, you made the same offer to me for my son. That's what he's saying. He said, I beseech you, my Adonai, which is that which you said unto me, saying, give me your son, that we may slay him, and I will give you silver and gold, a house full. When the king heard these words, I'm in 27 of Tarak, and the parable which he had brought concerning the king, it grieved him. And he was vexed at this thing, and his anger burned within him. And Tarak saw that the anger of the king was kindled. So basically, go down to verse 30. He says, let my king give me 3 days' time till I consider this matter within myself and consult with my family concerning the words of my king. And he pressed the king greatly to agree to this. And the king hearkened to Tarak. And he did so, and he gave him 3 days' time. And Tarak went out from the king's presence, and he came home to his family. And when he came home, he told the family everything that had taken place. So over in 35, well, let me finish this story. So when the king sent, after 3 days, the king sent for Tarak's son. And what Avram did is he took one of his servant girls' babies and gave it to the king. And the king literally, well, it says here, okay, here it goes. He says, and Yahweh was with Tarak in this matter, that Nimrod might not cause Avram's death. And the king took the child from Tarak, and with all of his might he dashed his head to the ground, for he thought it was Avram. And this was concealed from him from that day. So he thought he had taken care of this problem child. But guys, you have to realize this is brutal. I mean, what you're hearing is brutal. But Nimrod was brutal, okay?
So was he the king?
He was the king of Shinar. You're going to see there's, oh man, I meant to bring up all of the provinces. I'm going to get Seth to do that. There's maps of all of these rulerships, the Amorites, the Uzites, the Hedezites, all around them. Okay, in verse 35, and Tarak took Avram his son secretly, together with his mother and the nurse, and he concealed them in a cave, and he brought them the provisions once a month. And Yahweh was with Avram in the cave, and he grew up, and Avram was in the cave 10 years, and the king and his princes, soothsayers and sages, thought the king had killed Avram. Chapter 9, verse 1, and Haran, the son of Tarak, Avram's oldest brother, took a woman in those days, and Haran was 39 years old when he took her, and the woman of Haran conceived and bore a son, and he called his name Lot. And she conceived again and bore a daughter, and he called her name Milcah. And she again conceived and bore a daughter, and he called her name Sarah. Haran was 42 years old when he begot Sarah, which was in the 10th year of the life of Avram. And in those days, look how this just falls into place. How much older was Avram than Sarah? 10 years. Mm-hmm. And in those days, Avram and his mother and nurse went out of the cave, as the king and his subjects had forgotten the affair of Avram. And when Avram came out from the cave, he went to Noach and his son Shem. Guys, guess who he grew up around? Who was the most righteous man? Noah. It wasn't his sons, wasn't his wife, and it wasn't his sons' wives. It was Noah. And they were all saved because of Noach's righteousness. So he went to Noach and his son Shem, and he remained with them to learn the instruction of Yahweh and his ways. And no man knew where Avram was. And Avram served Noach and Shem his son for a long time. And Avram was in Noah's house 39 years. And Avram knew Yahweh from the age of 3 years old. And Avram knew Yahweh from 3 years old. And he went in the ways of Yahweh until the day of his death, as Noah and his son
Shem had taught him.
So
Abraham was taught by Noah.
and Shem. So the beauty of this most righteous man, Noah, and his little drunken stupor was, it was 4 years after he came off the boat, and he had grown wine, he had put it up, and in the 4th year, he was celebrating. And if you read in scripture, in all the scriptures, it tells you for Shavuot, take strong drink, liquor, wine, whatever, but celebrate, be joyful. And so this was one of those celebrations, and Noah got a little too joyful, didn't he? And he fell asleep in his tent naked, and that's when this occurred. But he really didn't do any evil. He drank a little too much. That's what it sounds like. Okay, so Abraham grew up with Shem and Noah. Shem started, I'm going to get this word wrong, a Sheba. Is that the word for a Hebrew school?
Shiva.
A Sheba.
I think it's Shiva.
But he started a school for Torah, and this is what he taught. He taught Torah in Jerusalem, in Salem. I was looking for Ashton, but Ashton got up.
But and the tablets haven't come down off it, off Mount Sinai yet. You know what I mean? Right?
They had.
Well, they had by this
Oh,
time.
no, they had not.
Yeah.
No, you're right. They had not.
It's been around a lot longer than that.
But Adam and Hua knew the Torah.
They didn't clean it up.
Yep. Noah knew what was clean and unclean because he brought on the ark 7 of the clean.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to know what was clean and what was unclean. But he didn't bring any dinosaurs. And all the sons of the no unicorns or dinosaurs. And all the sons of the earth in those days greatly transgressed against Yahweh. And they rebelled against him, and they served other Elohim. Some things never change, do they? Just never change. They forgot Yahweh, who had created them in the earth, and the inhabitants of the earth made unto themselves at that time every man his own Elohim, an Elohim of wood and stone, which could neither speak, hear, or deliver. And the sons of men served them, and they became their Elohim. We're doing the same thing today, guys.
Yeah, Jeremiah, what, 10:4?
Read it.
Jeremiah 10:4.
Oh, you're talking about the tree.
I am.
That they hammer into the...
That it cannot speak and it won't topple.
It can't even stand up by itself. Yet everyone does what? You gotta give me some sugar.
Bow down.
That's mine.
They adorn it with silk. Okay, so we'll go to 2. Thus said Yahweh, do not learn the way of the Gentiles, and do not be frightened by the signs of the Shamayim, the heavens. For the Gentiles or nations are frightened by them. For the prescribed customs of these people are worthless, for one cuts a tree out of the forest, works for the hands of a craftsman with a cutting tool. They adorn it with silver and gold, and they fasten it with nails and hammers, so that it does not topple. They are like a rounded post, and they do not speak. They have to be carried, because they do not walk. Do not be afraid of them. They cannot do evil, nor is it in them to do any good.
So they weren't celebrating Christmas at that time, but they were adorning the tree with gold and silver balls representing
Fertility.
Fertility. Thank you. I needed that mouth of yours right there, for representing fertility. And so they were worshiping the tree. And guys, listen. Today, when there's a tree erected in a house, Clara
told the lady at the church, what'd you say to her?
what happens when you've got a tree and you're putting and getting gifts out from under?
You're bowing down to it.
You're bowing down to the tree. And how many people will not give up their tree? They're like, no. And guys, I was there.
Me too.
I decorated my tree. I had lights all over the place. I still think about the Christmas season, the smells, the sights, the music. The music.
Lifetime movies?
Oh no, the Lifetime music.
Jack, are you
It's a
watching Lifetime
wonderful,
movies?
it's a wonderful life.
Hallmark with me.
So guys, listen, we've been there, and what do? We weep, we cry, we get over it, and we go forward, because what Yah has, his festivals,
So much better.
They're his. Well, look at Leviticus 23. I want you to just see the very first word. Leviticus 23. First one there has to read it.
What page number? You wanna get to?
130,
What verse? 129.
129. Depends what verse to be.
Okay, very first verse.
Hold on.
23, 1. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, the appointed times of Yahweh. The appointed times of Yahweh. Whose festivals are these?
Yahweh.
Whose festivals are we celebrating here on this plane right now? Whose?
Satan.
Pagans. They're pagan holidays. But these are Yah's. And he says, which you are to proclaim as set apart gatherings. My appointed times are these. And he starts out with what?
Sabbath.
The Sabbath. You get 52 Sabbaths, plus an additional 12 for the new moon Sabbaths, plus you get all the festivals. Our Father loves to take time off with his children. Okay? But now, as he's going through 23, you're not going to find anything about a Christmas tree, and you're not going to find a bunny that lays eggs. Oh, wait, they don't lay eggs, do they? How'd that come about? Okay, we'll get to that later. All right. So I mean, all the things that we do today in this world that we think are fun and cool and amazing have very dark pasts. And live streamers, I'm going to recommend that you look at, and I don't follow him now, but Jim Staley, many years ago, had Truth or Traditions was his video, and it is amazing. I tell you what, he had 3. He had To Eat or Not to Eat, and he had Identity of Israel. Those 3 were his very best teachings I ever. So I recommend everybody look at them. Jim Staley. Jim Staley.
Yes,
Staley.
So you can look it up on Staley, Staley, and it was Passion for Truth Ministries is what his ministry was. But these are his old YouTube videos. And so I'm going to give you the names of them again. There is To Eat or Not to Eat. That is a question, right? And we still question it today. Well, can we eat this or can't we? We're always looking at the ingredients. Bailey's like, you can't eat the soap or the
Eat the soap.
disinfectant soap, but you also can't put it on your hands. And I was like, brand new $6 bottle
Yeah, it had
of
gelatin in
disinfectant. Goodbye. Had gelatin. Largest organ of the body, the skin. So To Eat or Not to Eat. Truth and Tradition, which is going to carry you all the way back through where all Halloween, Easter, Christmas,
Valentine's.
Baby Tammuz. Listen, guys, we have been dealt a plate of lies, and we've ate it. We gobbled it down. We wiped our mouths off and went back for seconds. Hook, line, and sinker. And we went back for seconds. Like it wasn't enough for us. We went back for seconds. So we have engaged, all of us, voluntarily, in what the world has to offer. But it's because we've been fed a bunch of lies.
Like it says in Revelation, come out of her, my people. Come out of who? It's Babylon and all the ways that we've been taught. It's hardest, I think, unlearning it.
There you go. Come out of her, my people. That's it.
The RCC.
Wait, what was the third video?
The third.
Oh, the third was
You got the
identity crisis.
Identity crisis.
Identity crisis. I actually translated that, every word, and I still have it because it impacted me so much. So if anyone wants a written copy of
A transcript, yeah.
a transcript, I've got it because it just, he simply spells out where we came from, very simply, from the beginning to today. So I highly recommend those 3 by him, and he may be back on track by now. Last time I watched him,
Video I watched, it didn't seem too bad, but he was going on about what's going on over there
In Israel?
He seems to be a little bit more on that side of the boat.
well, he went into prison, and it was kind of a trumped up charge, but he still went into prison, and he spent time in there. And you get very heavy doctrine of Christianity in there, and so I think that it
Overpowered him a little.
yeah, it did a little bit. But I used to love his ministry.
Yeah.
But it's changed. It had changed. Last time I watched him, it had changed a bit. Okay. So where are we? Okay, 9/11. Yes, yes.
Sorry, I have a sideline.
No, that's good.
Okay. Jews, and there's Israel,
Yes.
we're Gentiles.
No,
I'm not.
I'm not either.
Read the-
Would they
read the
consider us Gentiles?
Okay, okay.
They say we're going.
Can I ask you? We're the goyim, which is the Gentiles, which are the word. If you look up the meaning of that word, it means those not under the covenant. If you're not under the covenant, you're not getting into the kingdom.
But for Israel, we are.
We have to choose to be Israel.
Right.
So, like Ruth was a Moabite. She wasn't from the house of Israel, and she was not from the house of Yehuda, which the house of Yehuda actually has Benjamin and Yehuda. So, but she wasn't from either of those houses. But what did she do?
Your people are my people. She said, your Elohim is my Elohim. So she chose, and then
Yes.
she was able to go into the Holy of Holies.
And not
Right.
just that, she became Yahusha's great grandmother. So she's in the lineage of Yahusha. So that is huge. So here, and that's why Jesse did the thing he did with King David. And we don't even have time to go into that, but it's a whole different story, Oy vey.
I think the thing is when you realize that
we're
our
not-
identity has been hidden from us.
So we're not Gentiles.
So we are the children of Israel.
Jerry,
We are
more,
grafted in.
more, well,
Where's the verse with the rods?
guys,
No Jew, no Greek,
Hold on.
no woman.
I'm sorry.
well,
Yes,
he
I'm sorry.
does say there's no
Second
difference.
Corinthians.
What is it?
2 Corinthians.
But what most people don't understand is when we were scattered to the four corners of the world, we went to
Scythia.
Scotland, we went to Ireland, we went to Rome, we went to Papua New Guinea, we went to Australia, we came to America. They pretty well trace back the tribe of Cherokees to Israel. They call the father Yahweh or Yahweh, one of the two. So we are probably from those tribes anyway.
The ones who went to Assyria, not the ones who went to Babylon.
That's
But the Babylon was just the tribe of Yehuda and Benjamin, and that's one reason when Yehuda and Benjamin went into Babylon, they came back. They did come back, and they were like those dogs. The house of Israel, they called the house of Israel dogs. They wouldn't eat with them because they didn't come back home. They just went far away. But look at Ezekiel. So I mean, just to show.
You looked up.
Sorry, I didn't mean.
No, you're
No,
good.
you're
Bob. That's
good.
your question.
No, that is exactly what we're here for, because we learn and we grow together. So in Ezekiel 47 in verse 21, this will be when the land is divided up. And this is important because everyone says what the law is just for those Israelites. The law's just for those Jews. No. Did you see any? Who was on the mountain when he gave the instructions? Well, forget the mountain. Who was across the Jordan when he gave the instructions before they came into the promised land? Well, I'm going to show you before we go here. Before we go here, I'm going to show you there. So go to Deuteronomy 29.
Deuteronomy what?
29. And it's going to be verse 10. Okay, are you ready?
No.
Okay, it's on page something 18. 218. So guys, this is who he gave the law of Yah to before they crossed the Jordan River. All of you who are standing today before Yahweh your Elohim, your leaders, your tribes, your elders, your officers, all of the men of Israel, your little ones, your wives, your sojourner, the one who's traveling with you, the strangers that is traveling with you, who is in the midst of your camp, from the one who cuts your wood to the one who draws your water, so that you should enter into covenant with Yahweh your Elohim and into his oath, which Yahweh your Elohim makes with you today, in order to establish you as a people for himself. And he himself be your Elohim, and he has spoken to you, and as he has sworn to your fathers, to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov, and not with you alone, I am making this covenant and this oath, but with him who stands here with us today, before Yahweh our Elohim, as well as him who is not here with us today. So it is the sojourners who left Egypt, who were, listen, there's a lot of Egyptians that when Israel left, they're like, hey, you're
We're going
taking me
with
with you. I just saw what y'all did. Oi, you ate our lamb god. I'm going with you. Okay? So many, the merchants that were selling their wares in Egypt, they left. So there were many strangers, sojourners who came out with all these tribes of Israel. So look here in 47, verse 21. And you shall divide this land among yourselves according to the tribes of Israel. Sounds like it's just going to be for Israel, doesn't it? And it shall be that you divide it by lot as an inheritance for yourself and for the strangers who sojourn in your midst, and who bear children among you, and they shall be to you as a native born among the children of Israel. With you they have an inheritance in the midst of the tribes of Israel, and it shall be that in whatever tribe the stranger sojourns, there you give him his inheritance. And this is declared by Yahweh. So the law was given to every person that even came. He said, even those who are not with me today, everyone who came from the loins of everyone who was standing there that day. Guys, have you ever looked at your family tree? Have you ever looked at a family tree? You can go, Jerry has, you can go back what? Oh, you do genealogy? My dad did too. So so if you go back 10 generations, how many people are back there? Guys, I'm going to tell you, if you go back 5, how many are there? Still too many to count. Yes?
I've just done partial, and there's 6,000 people that I have, and it's only back 4 generations.
And think how many people came from those 6,000. So guys, a family can fill a land rapidly, especially if you're like my daughter who has 10 kids. Okay? Quickly. So a family can multiply. Wesley is like,
I thought it was second Corinthians.
Puts in like 12.
go for it.
Oh, yeah, okay, so Galatians 3:26-29. For ye are all children of Elohim by faith in Mashiach Yahushua. For as many of you have been immersed in Mashiach and put on Mashiach. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female. For ye are all one in Yahushua HaMashiach. If you belong to Mashiach, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise.
There you go. That's it.
Mashiach being
The
Messiah.
Messiah. The Messiah. And I'm sorry, Drew, there's probably a lot of words. Just stop us and say, what does that mean? Because
No, that's fine.
we've all been where you are. Where we had to look it up going, what'd they say?
That's what I told Ashton.
It was like every day I would always say my brain is mush because I was learning too much. It's so much like a fast. I was like, I can't take this anymore.
You say there was
My brain hurts.
words, a Hebrew reference.
Well, and what's funny is with what you and Ashton have been bringing to me, I'm like, I tell someone, I think it was Sherry, I said, I feel like my brain has gone into overload and I have to just stop, shut all the doors, let my brain kind of absorb and deal with what I've heard. And then I can open the doors and I can take some more in because it absorbs and it goes
But
away.
only
Like,
so much at a time. Like the sponge can only hold so much at one time.
it's like your belly. You can eat so much food, it has to be digested, it has to be absorbed and go into the body to help build it.
So true.
Yeah, so it's just like his word is, our food.
Yeah.
It should be the food that we eat and the water that we drink. Okay, are y'all ready to keep learning a little bit more about Abraham?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in 9 verse 20. Guys, we're doing really good. It's only been 34 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, and King Nimrod reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control, and all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together. So let's see, we've got the tower and the rest of that, which y'all missed it last week, the 3 different types and what Yah did to them. It was really good. Sorry I missed it. No, I'm kidding. Okay, go to 11, and we're going to start in 6.
Where are we?
Chapter 11 of Yahsher.
Oh, okay.
And actually, we're probably going to start in 12. Okay, and guys, listen, I did not tell y'all, but we are reading, most of us are reading out of At Sefer. Sefer means the book. It just means the book. But it's Stephen Pidgeon's At Sefer, and we will actually be studying out of his At Sefer Bereshit for Adam and Hua this evening. So I really like his writings, and I actually did some studying even in the Torah portion, since mine's become almost illegible. And I was like, it's really good writing. So I may go over to that or the Hallelujah. Who knows? Anybody who wants to read this is more than welcome to, okay?
That big book.
This is the phone book. It is 10 pounds for sure. Okay, and 12 of 11. At that time died Nachor, the son of Sarug, in the 49th year of the life of Abraham, son of Terah. And in the 50th year of the life of Avram, son of Terah, Avram came forth from the house of Noah. And he went to his father's house, and Avram knew Yahweh. And he went in his ways and instructions, and Yahweh Elohehu was with him. And Terah, his father, was in those days still captain of the host of King Nimrod, and he still followed strange Elohim. And Avram came to his father's house and saw 12 Elohim, 12, and you'll notice if you've got the Sefer, little e Elohim, doesn't have a big E Elohim, standing there, and they all had their own little temple. And the anger of Avram was kindled when he saw these images in his father's house. And Avram said, as Yahweh lives, these images shall not remain in my father's house. So shall Yahweh, who created me, do unto me, if in 3 days' time I do not break them all. And Avram went from them, and his anger burned within in him. And he hastened to from the chamber to his father's outer court, and he found his father sitting in the court, and all his servants with him. And Avram came and sat before him, and Avram asked his father. I love this about Avram. Tiffany is like a female Avram. You're not afraid to say anything. So, and that's a good thing. That's a compliment. It's a compliment. And Avram asked his father, saying, Father, tell me, where is Elohim who created heaven and earth and all the sons of men upon earth? And who created you and me? And Terah answered his son Avram and said, Behold, those who created us are all with us in this house. And Avram said to his father, My Adonai, show them to me, I pray to you. And Terah brought Avram into the chamber of the inner court, and Avram saw, and behold, the whole room was full of Elohim, of wood and stone, 12 great images, and others less than they, without number. So 12 big little g gods, plus a whole bunch more. I mean, he just had a whole collection of them, didn't he? Just in case one didn't work, he had a second. And Terah said to his son, Behold, these are they which made all you see upon earth, and which created me and you and all mankind. And Terah bowed down to his Elohim, little e, and he then went away from them, and Avram his son went with him. Don't you know that Avram, who knew Yahweh, knew that Yah was the one who created everything upon this earth, and he created it through Yahusha, through the very word, the walking, talking, living, breathing Torah. He created it through him. Don't you know that he was like, my daddy has lost it. Okay, let me see. So I don't know whether, did we read the story of the Elohim a few weeks ago. Basically what happened was Avram brought a savory mixture of meat to all these little G gods. They didn't do anything. He was like, well, we can see from this, they can't eat. So on his second attempt, he brought them something even more better. More better. Is there a word such as that? More better. It was a better meal, tastier, savory, yummy. And he brought it and he set it before him. Nothing. So he went and he took his daddy's hatchet. He busted apart every single one of those little G gods, and then he put the axe in his dad's hand, in the biggest god's hand. And Terah was just coming home, and he heard all this commotion. He went in. He finds Avram in there, and he goes, "What's going on, son?" And Avram said, "You're not going to believe it, Dad." He said, "A woman came by. She brought a gift for the gods. I carried it in there. I set it before them. And before the big one could reach his hand out to take a little bite, all the little ones were devouring it. And so he took the hatchet and he killed them all." So let's start from there. In 41, and Terach's anger was kindled against his son Avram when he spoke this. And Terach said to Avram, his son, in his anger, listen to this. "What does this tell you that you have told? You speak lies to me. Is there in these Elohim Ruach? There's no spirit, there's no soul, there's no power to do all you've told me. Are they not wood and stone, and have I not myself made them? And can you speak such lies, saying that the large Elohim that was with them smote them? It is you that did place the hatchet in his hands, and then say that he smote them all." And Avram answered his father, and he said, "And how can you then serve these idols in whom there is no power to do anything? Can those idols in which you trust deliver you? Can they hear your prayers when you call upon them? Can they deliver you from the hands of your enemy, or will they fight your battles for you against your enemies? That you should serve wood and stone can neither speak nor hear. And now surely it is not good for you, nor for the sons of men that are connected with you, to do these things. Are you so silly?" And this is where I say Tiffany. Tiffany said, "Are you so silly? Are you so foolish? Are you so short of understanding that you will serve wood and stone and do after this manner, and forget Yahweh Elohim who made heaven and earth?" He's like, "Dad, have you lost it all?" I mean, his dad just told him, everything you see, these little G Elohim made and created. And he's like, "Are you really that silly?" But obviously he's not. He knows he made them. And so skip over to verse 50. And Terach, seeing all that Avram had done, he hastened to go from his house. And do you know what he's going to do? He's going to go tell Nimrod. He's tattling on his own child. He's going to go tell Nimrod what his son Avram did. Okay, so Terach, seeing all that Avram had done, hastened to go from his house, and he went to the king, and he came before Nimrod. He stood before him, and he bowed down to the king, and the king said, "What do you want?" And he said, "I beseech you, my Adonai, to hear me. Now 50 years back a child was born to me, and thus has he done to my Elohim, and thus has he spoken. And now therefore my Adonai and king, Lord, right? Master, send for him that he may come before you and judge him according to the law, that we may be delivered from his evil." And the king sent 3 men of his servants, and they went and they brought Avram before the king, and Nimrod and all his princes and servants were that day sitting before him, and Terach also sat before them. And the king said to Avram, "What is this that you have done to your father and to his Elohim?" And Avram answered the king, he is not shy in the words that he spoke to his father. And he said, "The large Elohim that was with them in the house did to them what you have heard." And the king said to Avram, "Had they power to speak and eat and do as you have said?" And Avram answered the king, saying, "And if there be no power in them, why do you serve them? And why do you cause the sons of men to err through your follies? Do you imagine that they can deliver you from anything small or great, that you should serve them?" And why will you not sense the Elohim of the whole universe, who created you, and in whose power it is to kill and keep alive? Foolish, simple, and ignorant king, woe unto you forever. I thought you would teach your servants the upright way, but you've not done this, but you have filled the whole earth with your sins and the sins of your people who have followed your ways. Do you not know, or have you not heard, that this evil which you do, our ancestors sinned therein in the days of old, and the eternal Elohim brought the waters of the flood upon them, destroyed them all, and also destroyed the whole earth on their account. And will you and your people rise up now and do like unto this work, in order to bring down the anger of Yahweh? Wow. So, somebody's in trouble, aren't they? I'm going to say it's Avram. So in 12 it says, the king heard the words of Avram, and he ordered to have him put into prison. And he was in there 10 days.
Reminds me of Revelation. 10 days you will have tribulation.
Ooh.
10 days you will have a testing or refining.
It was taken away. What does it say? Go into captivity and be there for 10 days.
10 days.
Wow, and that's exactly how long Avram was. What verse in
Revelation?
uh-huh,
Revelation 2, I think.
2?
I think. Let me
Wow, I didn't even put that with this.
Yes, okay. So it's Revelation 2:10. Do not be afraid of what you are about to suffer. See, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison in order to try you, and you shall have pressure 10 days. Be trustworthy until death, and I shall give you the crown of life.
How beautiful is that? So, Tiffany, you just put that together with what we're reading. So 10 days that Abraham is in prison, 10 days. He's telling us, be strong, be brave. Joshua's words to Ashton, right? Be strong, be brave. Don't worry, I got this. Okay, we're going to start in verse 9 of 12. And when Avram was come, the conjurers of the king and the sages saw Avram, and they cried out to the king, saying, Our sovereign Adonai, surely this is the man whom we know to have been the child, at whose birth the great star swallowed the 4 stars, which we declared to the king now 50 years since, and behold now, his father has also transgressed your commands, and mocked you by bringing you another child, which you did kill. So, yeah, Tarak just got busted. He thought he was scot-free. And go to verse 15, and the king said, Who advised you to do this? And he's talking to Tarak. He said, Tell me, and do not hide aught from me, and then you shall not die. And Tarak was greatly terrified in the king's presence, and he said to the king, Oh, it was Haran, my oldest son. He's the one that advised me to do this. And Haran was in those days that Avram was born, 2 and 30 years old. But Haran did not advise his father to anything. For Tarak said this to the king in order to deliver his own soul from the king, for he greatly feared. And the king said to Tarak, Haran, your son, who advised you to do this, shall die through fire with Avram. For the sentence of death is upon him for having rebelled against the king's desire in doing this. And Haran at that time felt inclined to follow the ways of Avram, but he kept it within himself. And Haran said in his heart, Behold, now the king has seized Avram on account of these things which Avram did, and it shall come to pass that if Avram prevails over the king, I will follow him. But if the king prevail, I will go after the king. Is that sitting on the fence?
Yep.
That's sitting on.
Sounds a little lukewarm, like some vomit that might need to be spit.
It does. It sounds like someone that needs to be spat out, doesn't it? So Haran was vomit. Thanks, Ashton. Whole new visual for me. 21. And they brought them both, Avram and Haran his brother, and cast them into the fire. And all the inhabitants of the land and the king's servants and princes and all the women and little ones were there, standing that day over them. And the king's servants took Avram and his brother, and they stripped them of all their clothes except their lower garments which were upon them. They bound their hands and their feet with linen cords, and the servants of the king lifted them up and cast them both into the furnace. And Yahweh loved Avram. What did he say about King David? He's a man after my own heart. Avram was too, because he was willing to say those words that he knew. Do you think Avram didn't know that the words he was saying to the king were going to get him cast somewhere not fun? He knew, and he was fearless. He knew that these were words that he was born for a time such as this.
Esther 4:14.
And all of you were born for such a time as will show its face one day. All of you. We all have choices. So Yahweh loved Avram, and he had compassion over him, and Yahweh came down and he delivered Avram from the fire, and he was not burned. But all the cords with which they bound him, they were burned. While Avram remained and walked about in the fire, and Haran died when they cast him into the fire, and he was burned to ashes, for his heart was not perfect with Yahweh, because he was lukewarm, right? Mm-hmm. And those men who cast him into the fire, the flame of the fire spread over them, and they were burned. 12 men of them died. Listen to this. And Avram walked in the midst of the fire 3 days and 3 nights. And all the servants of the king saw him walking in the fire, and they came and they told the king, saying, Behold, we've seen Avram walking about in the midst of the fire, and even the lower garments which were upon him, they are not burned, but the cord with which he was bound, it's burned. And when the king heard their words, his heart grew faint, and he would not believe them. So he sent other faithful princes to see this matter. And they went, they saw, and they told it to the king. And the king rose to go and see it. And he saw Avram walking to and fro in the midst of the fire, and he saw Haran's body burned. And the king wondered greatly. And the king ordered Avram to be taken out of the fire, and his servants approached to take him out, and they could not. For the fire was round about, and the flame ascending toward them from the furnace. I'm going to start in 32 now. And when the king saw that his servants could not approach the fire, lest they should be burned, the king called to Avram, O servant of the Elohim who is in heaven. He's a little bit respectful now, isn't he? Mm-hmm. O servant of the, capital E, Elohim who is in the heaven, go forth from amidst the fire and come hither before me. And Avram hearkened to the voice of the king. And he went forth from the fire, and he came and he stood before the king. And when Avram came out, the king and all of his servants saw Avram coming before the king with his lower garments upon him, for they were not burned, but the cord with which he was bound was burned. And the king said to Avram, How is it that you were not burned in the fire? And Avram said to the king, The Elohim of heaven and earth, in whom I trust, and who has all in his power. He delivered me from the fire into which you did cast me. And Haran, the brother of Avram, was burned to ashes, and they sought for his body, and they found it consumed. So in 39, and this thing seemed very wonderful in the eyes of the king and princess, and Avram was saved from the fire, and that Haran was burned, and the king gave Avram many presents. Listen, because this has a huge play in what we're going to be studying today. And he gave him his 2 head servants from the king's house. The name of one was Oni, and the name of the other was Eleazar. Isn't that beautiful? So this is where Eleazar started with Avram. And all the kings and princes gave Avram many gifts, silver and gold and pearls. And the king and his princes sent him away, and he went in peace. And let's see here. In 42, and Avram returned on that day and went to his father's house, he and the men that followed him. And Avram served Yahweh Eloheinu all the days of his life, and he walked in his ways, and he followed his Torah. And from that day forward, Avram inclined the hearts of the sons of men to serve Yahweh. And at that time, Nachor and Avram took unto themselves women, the daughters of their brother Haran. The woman of Nachor was Milcah, and the name of Avram's woman was Sarai. And Sarai, the woman of Avram, was barren, and she had no offspring in those days. And at the expiration of 2 years from Avram's going out of the fire, that is in the 52nd year of his life, behold, King Nimrod sat in Babel on the throne, and the king fell asleep, and he dreamed a dream. A dream. So the king dreamed in 47, drop down there. The king dreamed that all of his troops sank in that river and died, and the king took flight with 3 men who were before him, and he escaped. So, guys, Nimrod, well, let me step back because I missed part of this. He dreamed that he was standing with his troops and host in a valley opposite to the king's furnace. And he lifted up his eyes, and he saw a man in the likeness of Avram coming forth from the furnace, and that he came and stood before the king with his strong sword, and then sprang to the king with his sword. When the king fled with the man, he was afraid. And while he was running, the man threw an egg upon the king's head, and the egg became a great river. Okay, in the future, Avram's grandson, Esau, will slay Nimrod. He cuts his head off. In the further future, further down the road, what does Moshe do? All of the king's men, all of the Pharaoh's men will sink. And so, where are the areas that Nimrod has started? Put, Mitzrayim, Shinar, all of this area. It's Egypt. That's where Nimrod was located. So the Egyptians drowned in the Red Sea or the Reed Sea when it came back over them. So this is prophesying two completely different events. The death of Nimrod, which was the same day that Esau came running home, and he went, I'll give you everything I've got, my firstborn rights, everything I own, for just a bowl of that red lentil stew. We were like, that had to be some good stew. But let me ask you, what's all your things worth to you if you believe the king's servants are after you? Because he just killed Nimrod, chopped off his head. So Esau was a great hunter, so was Nimrod. In fact, in scriptures, it tells us that Nimrod was a man after Abba's heart. That Abba loved him, and he told him, you've got to walk the Torah. You've got to walk out the commandments and stop doing the things you're doing. And he did not. Okay. So we're almost to where our tour portion starts. See how much we missed? I know. Y'all are like, well, it's an hour in. What are you talking about? We'll go fast. Don't look at me like that. Okay, 51. In the morning, the king rose from his couch in fear and ordered all the wise men and magicians to come before him. And when the king related his dream to them, a wise servant of the king, whose name was Anuku, answered the king, saying, this is nothing else but the evil of Avram and his seed, which will spring up against my Adonai and king in the latter days. And behold, the day will come when Avram and his seed and the children of his household will war with my king, and they will smite all the king's host and his troops. And as to what you have said concerning 3 men, which you did see like unto yourself, and which did escape, this means only that you will escape with 3 kings from the kings of the earth, who will be with you in battle. In 57, now therefore, my king, surely you know that this is now 52 years since your sages saw that at the birth of Avram, and if my king will suffer Avram to live in the earth, it will be to the injury of my Adonai and king. For all the days that Avram lives, neither you nor your kingdom will be established, for this was known formerly at his birth, and they will not, and why will not my king slay him, that his evil may be kept from you in the latter days? And Nimrod hearkened to the voice of Anuku, and he sent some of his servants in secret to go and seize Avram and bring him before the king to suffer death. And Eleazar, Avram's servant, whom the king had given him, was at that time in the presence of the king. And he heard that Anuku had advised the king and what the king had said to cause Avram's death. And Eleazar said to Avram, hasten, rise up, save your soul, that you may not die through the hands of the king. For thus did he see in the dream concerning you, and thus did Anuku interpret it, and thus also did Anuku advise the king concerning you. And Avram hearkened to the voice of Eleazar, and Avram hastened and ran for safety to the house of Noach, He goes back to Noah's house, to Noach and his son Shem, and he concealed himself there and found a place of safety. And the king's servants came to Avram's house to seek him. And Avram, 63, was concealed in Noach's house for 1 month until the king had forgotten this matter. But Avram was still afraid of the king, and Terach came to see Avram, his son, secretly in the house of Noach. And Terach was very great in the eyes of the king. And Avram said to his father, "Do you not know that the king thinks to slay me and to annihilate my name from the earth by the advice of his wicked counselors? Now whom have you here, and what have you in this land? Arise, let us go together in the land of Canaan, that we may be delivered from his hand, lest you perish also through him in the latter days." Skip over to 68. See, we're really running through this pretty fast. "Now therefore hearken to my voice, and let us arise and go to the land of Canaan, out of the reach of injury from Nimrod, and serve Yahweh who created you in the earth, and it will be well with you. And cast away all the vain things that you pursue." And Avram ceased to speak when Noach and his son Shem answered Terach, saying, "True is the word which Avram has said unto you." And Terach hearkened to the voice of his son Avram, and Terach did all that Avram said, for this was from Yahweh. Okay, I want to read just one more little portion, and then we're going into the Torah portion, because then we'll be caught up. Okay, go to 17. Well, actually, in 12 of 13, it says, "And in the 10th year of Avram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, there was war between Nimrod, king of Shinar, and Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Nimrod came to fight with Kedorlaomer and to subdue him." Now skip down to 13:17. Am I losing anybody yet?
Yes.
I'm sorry. It's my desire to try to get all this in before we lose it. Okay. It was in the 15th year of Avram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, which is in the 70th year of the life of Avram. And Yahweh appeared to Avram in that year, and he said, "I am Yahweh who brought you out from the Ur of Kasdim, from the fire of Kasdim, to give you this land for an inheritance." And when we're reading in the Sefer about the furnace of the king, that is the fire of the Kasdim. They must have had just fires all over the Shinar area where they were making all these idols. Must have been quite the business. So now, therefore, walk before me and be perfect and guard my commands, for to you and to your seed I will give this land for an inheritance, from the river Mitzrayim unto the great river Parah. And you shall come to your fathers in peace and in good age. And the 4th generation shall return here in this land and shall inherit it forever. What happens for 4 generations? They're in Egypt. They're serving Pharaoh. And it's actually only 210 years, but he uses the generations because he's so gracious. And he started with Yahsher. So that is how the 400 years comes in. And Avram built an altar, and he called upon the name of Yahweh who appeared to him, and he brought up sacrifices upon the altar to Yahweh. And at that time, Avram returned and went to Haran to see his father and mother and his father's household. And Avram and his woman and all belonging to him returned to Haran. And Avram dwelt in Haran 5 years. And many of the people of Haran, about 72 men, followed Avram. And Avram taught them in the instruction of Yahweh and his ways. And he taught them to know Yahweh. Now, we're at 75 years. Now we can go back to the Torah portion.
But a lot happened.
How did you know to go from the 75 years to go back to Yahsher?
Well, Jerry, I searched because I was like, he's 75 years old, and what happened? But in reading the book of Yahsher is when I found it, and I was like, wow.
And they took all those books out, the Apocrypha, they took them all out. And then it's like, it's,
Yeah, they're in the Geneva Bible, but
Yes.
yes. And that's the thing, it's like so much wisdom that has been kept from us, and we really need to know all the story because it provides us, I feel like, just more details, more depth, and it's not just superficial, it's just going in so much deeper.
no, it's because it's like, oh, well, Abram's sitting there and all of a sudden he just, think I'll worship this guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that doesn't make sense. Where does it come from?
It's like a little bit unlocks another chapter and a little bit unlocks another chapter, and then all the puzzle pieces come together so beautifully.
Yeah.
And it's going to be 14, 42 through 48. Guys, that brings me one other point I do want to make before we get into the Torah portion.
Are we gonna cover the part where Isaac, the whole thing with Isaac? Where Abraham's asked, is that gonna get covered today?
That's next week.
Okay. I'll use that.
The Ashiva,
Yeah,
the
will you
sacrifice?
find out why? Because the Genesis makes no sense until you understand why he was willing to do it. What was going on behind the scenes where it was Hasatan mocking God?
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing.
Even his age.
Yeah.
Even his age. I mean, they make it in all the movies like he's some child, and
He's not a child.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, so
Sorry.
you just heard all the story about Milcah being married to Nahor. And so when they're coming down from the Ashiva, I believe is what it's called. That's not the word for it. But the sacrifice, when they're coming down, he finds out Milcah just gave birth to Rebecca. Rachel. Yeah, to Rebecca. So it's really fascinating.
And Isaac's
But
like 30.
yeah. So everything just falls into place, and only a sovereign Yah could make all these books fall into place like this. Okay, in Proverbs chapter 25, verse 2, it says, "It is the glory of Elohim to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. The heavens for height and the earth for depth, and the heart of kings is unsearchable." So Abba has hidden these treasures, guys.
Proverbs what?
Proverbs 25:2. He has hidden all these treasures. Those who are hungry, and I see a bunch of hungry people in here, you search and you dig and you dive to find the answers to everything that you've asked questions for, and that your preachers said, "Well, I don't know, one day, all these mysteries will be revealed." Abba's got the mysteries revealed. You just have to search. You have to knock on the door. Knock. The door will be open. Ask and you will receive. If you're asking and you're walking in the will of Yah, you're only going to ask for His will, and He will give. He hears those prayers. Would you read the fourth book of Ezra?
14.
14,
43 to 48.
42 through 48.
Okay.
So we're in Ezra, the fourth book of Ezra,
Chapter 14, 42 through 48.
chapter 14, 42 through 48.
Fourteen, 22,
42 through 48.
40.
It's on 1393.
What verse?
42 through 48.
42.
Okay.
okay, what was it again? I'm so sorry.
It's
Ezra?
4th Ezra,
Yeah,
14, 42 through 48.
thank you.
It's 1393.
Well,
Well,
mine's 1429,
Yeah, they're all
so
different.
you can't really go by
We
the
have three
page
separate
numbers.
Mine's
pages, they're all
14:12.
on it.
Okay. So guys, listen. When all of the scrolls have been destroyed and all the writings have been completely burned, this is what's going on here, because Ezra's heart was so much after. Listen, how much did Ezra argue with Yah over the souls of even the men who were being disobedient?
He was
see-
so worried.
he Ezra so loved all the people that he's like, but what if? But Yah, it's not fair. It's not fair that you would judge us this way. His heart is like Yahusha's. It's for
And
everyone.
he's like, how are you even questioning me? I was the one that made them. Who are you to question me?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was like, they're turning their back on me and you're questioning?
Don't you know he felt like, ooh. Okay, so what Yah did was he said, okay, Ezra said, okay, what's going to happen now? Because I'm teaching man your Torah, but what happens after I'm gone? Because there are no books. And Yah said, oh, you're right. Let's get together and we will go for it.
Elyon gave understanding to the 5 men And they wrote the wonderful visions of the night that were told, which they knew not. And they sat 40 days, and they wrote in the day, and at night they ate bread. As for me, I spoke in the day, and I held not my tongue by night. In 40 days they wrote 94 sepharim. And it came to pass, when 40 days, huh?
You said 94?
94.
Yeah.
Some say 94, some say
Mine
92.
204.
Huh.
Mine says 204.
That's not right. Sorry, but it's not accurate.
Yeah. It's supposed
You
to be
brought this
94, is what's in the Dead Sea Scrolls,
She
right?
brought this for bought this for us.
And it came to pass, when the 40 days were filled, that El Elyon spoke, saying, the first that you have written, publish openly, that the worthy and unworthy may read it. But keep the 70 last, that you may deliver them only to such as the wise among the people. For in them the spring of understanding, the fountain of wisdom, and the stream of knowledge. And I did so.
So, guys, the books that Yah has hidden away, they're for the elect. They're for those of you who are digging and diving and wanting to draw. Let me ask you this. Why are we obedient to his commands?
Because we love him.
Because we love him. And because we love him, we want to know more about him. And what do his books tell us? More about him. More about what makes him pleased with us. It's not, I don't know about y'all, but I'm not thinking about the prize down the road. I'm thinking about the relationship with Yah. If you're just thinking about the prize down the road, it's probably going to be okay, but this is all about your relationship with the Father, with our Abba Yahweh, who created you to sojourn with him in the kingdom forever. And that's what this is supposed to be about, becoming his obedient children. And how dare I say, I don't have to do that. I can eat shrimp. By golly. You know, even the smell of shrimp now makes me ill.
It's disgusting.
It is disgusting. So, you know, well, live streamers, let me hit that real quick before we move on. But since I already opened that little Pandora's box, listen, the shrimp, the lobster, the crabs, the oysters, what were they made for?
Clean.
They're filters. These are filters.
And they wonder why our oceans look the way they do now.
Amen. Okay, so we've got corals. We've got big, beautiful coral reefs down in Australia that are dying. Why? Because we're eating all the filters, you idiots. I'm sorry. That was a little too Tiffany, wasn't it? I'm sorry. Sorry. I got a little too Tiff on us. But but think
Whoa, man.
Whoa.
It's all 'cause of the word.
Just respond back to her tip.
Truth hurts.
I know. Oy vey.
Oy vey. That's what we say. So guys, we're eating what is cleaning the waters. We're eating what allows the fish to thrive, the coral reefs to thrive. Go to any restaurant, look at the menus. Tons of seafood. They're just gobbling it down.
And what's crazy, it's always the most expensive. I'm like, it's so
You got to pay for
expensive.
sin, girl.
I
You
know.
gotta pay for sin.
Pay for that expensive
Lobster
delicacy
used to
that's
be the food of poor people. We
Did
watched-
it really?
It did. We watched this special the other day.
What was it now?
It was lobster. It was the food of poor people. That's all they could afford.
Wow.
When did it change? When did it flip?
Yeah, something like
When
that.
they convinced us it was a delicacy.
Yeah.
Exactly. But oysters have always been a delicacy in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason.
It's just crazy. So guys, listen.
Well, even in the book of Enoch, going back to that, what you were saying in Second Ezra, a second witness, or Fourth Ezra, but a second witness, according to Deuteronomy, would be Enoch, because he said in the very beginning of Enoch, the word of the blessing of Enoch, how he blessed the elect and the righteous who were to exist in the time of trouble. Okay, so that's what this is for. That's what these books are for. So there's your second witness.
Especially the book of Enoch.
Mhm.
Because Yah literally told Enoch, hide this book away. It's not for the people of this day. It's for people to come. But listen, Noah knew he knew about the flood. Because Enoch knew about the flood. what kind of great grandpa would not tell his son, which was Methuselah, and Lamech, his grandson, and then Noah, this is what you were born for. Your righteousness is what will save the world. We'll start all over. So that was grandpa. Okay, now then. So all these books are treasures, aren't they? Okay, so I'm going to read just this scripture really quick. It's out of Matthew, it's out of 13, and I'm starting in 44. And I'm actually reading it from Et Sefer, Dr. Stephen Pigeon. I like it.
Matthew 13, right?
44. Don't ask. Because we don't know.
I got you.
But it's this far from the back. Mine's on 1533.
1495.
Yeah, 1495.
Wow. Sounds like we're throwing a lot of years out there.
44. You said
That's
40?
The millennium.
Hey, you said
That's the one I heard.
44.
44.
Okay, are y'all ready? Again, the kingdom of Yahweh is likened to treasure hid in a field. That which when a man has found, he hides, and for joy thereof goes and he sells all that he has and he buys that field. And again, the kingdom of Yahweh is likened to a merchantman seeking goodly pearls, who when he has found one pearl of a great price, he went, he sold all he had, and he bought it. Y'all, I have seen y'all, and I've heard your stories about how hungry you are and how deep you're diving. And I think Ashton told me one day, he said, I think Jessica thinks I've lost my mind because I just stay in his word. Guys, we've all been there. We are all there. We're searching and seeking for truth. Who's truth? Yahsher is truth. He is the walking, talking, living, breathing word of Yah. So this is what's so beautiful. In 47 he says, and again, the kingdom of Yahweh is likened to a net that was cast into the sea and gathered of every kind, which when it was full, they drew it to shore, sat down, they gathered the good into the vessels, but they cast away the bad. Uh-oh. What? What are y'all looking at me like that for? I'm just reading. So shall it be at the end of the world, the angel shall come forth and sever the wicked from amongst the just, and shall cast them into the furnace of fire. And there will be wailing, and there will be gnashing of teeth. The wheat and the weeds. The wheat, bow. The wheat, well, tares are weeds. The wheat and the tares. So the wheat bows. The tares, the weeds, they don't bow. So what happens? They're stiff-necked. They get plucked up, bundled up, tossed into the fire where they go, because they're dry. They're dead. So there's two right here. The evil, the wicked, the bad are pulled out. Sounds like a rapture to me, doesn't it? Not what they're expecting, is it?
In reverse.
It's in reverse. The bad are removed, the good are left, because where is the kingdom of heaven coming? Here? No, we'll go up, we'll meet him in the sky. We're coming right back down. We're not going anywhere, guys. We're not going anywhere yet, okay?
So I like Sherry's verse that she posted. That was beautiful that you posted, but it's Jeremiah the 29 and then 12, and 11 through 13, speaking about I want to be in the good group, not the terror group. For I know the plans that I am planning for you, declares Yahweh, plans of peace and not of evil, to give you an expectancy of a latter end. Then you shall call on me, and I shall come shall come and pray to me, and I shall listen to you. And you shall seek and shall find me when you search for me with all your heart.
When you search for me with all your heart. You're not going to find him just sitting on a pew. You're not going to find him if you never open your Bible. You're not going to find him. If your Bible's dirty and dusty, live streamers, you might want to brush it off, and you might want to open it up, and you might want to start studying. And I'm not talking about reading. I'm not talking about reading. I'm talking about studying it to the point that your loved ones think there's something wrong with you.
I found that picture that Adam Fink has,
Did you?
so I'll text it to the group. Where
Oh.
it's the bowing wheat next to the table
I would
standing up.
love to see
So
that.
I'll text it to the group for everyone.
That's good. Okay, are y'all ready to get back to the Torah portion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Avram left as Yahweh commanded him, and Lot went with him, and Avram was 75 years old when he set out. What did y'all say? What did he say earlier? He said, he told him to leave the land and leave his family, didn't he?
Yes.
Okay. Taking family with him, isn't he? And Avram took Sarah his wife and Lot his brother's son and all their possessions that they had gathered and the beings whom they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. And they came to the land of Canaan. Would you read Jubilees 10:25? Because I want to show y'all proof that Canaan was supposed to be, I don't know, Shem's land, but what would he have named it? Shemland? That's funny. Yes.
For this reason, the whole land of Shinar is called Babel, because Yahuwah did there confound all the language of the children of men. Am I
Oh,
right?
I didn't give you the right one. It's Jubilees.
10:25.
Go to
25:10.
So in 8 of Jubilees is where he divides up the land, right? He divides it up in 8. No, it's in 10:27. What did I tell you?
10:25.
Oh, in 10:27 it says, in the 4th week, in the 1st year, in the beginning thereof, in the 4th and 30th Jubilee. So Jubilees is divided up in what?
50 years.
50 years. For they dispersed from the land of Shinar, and Ham and his sons went into the land which he was to occupy, which he acquired as his portion in the land of the south. And Canaan saw the land of Lebanon to the river of Mitzrayim, that it was very good. And he went not into the land of his inheritance to the west, that was to the sea. And he dwelt in the land of Lebanon eastward and westward from the border of Jordan and from the border of the sea. And Ham his father and Cush and Mitzrayim his brother said unto him, you have just settled in land which is not yours, and which did not fall to us by lot. Do not do so, for if you do, you and your sons will fall in the land and be accursed through sedition. So he said, so what? I'm staying. It's my land. So what? I don't have to be obedient to his commands. I don't have to do what Abba tells me. That's exactly what Canaan did. And so he named all the land Canaan. So they are Canaanites. Isn't it going to be cool when one day Abba corrects that? Then I wonder what it's going to be named. Okay, let's start. So he is going to inherit all of the land of Canaanite, the promised land. And Avram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, as far as the tabernacle tree of Moreh, and
6.
and
Oh,
6.
okay.
And at that time, the Canaanites were in the land. So the terebinth tree of Moreh, it can mean the tree of teaching. So Avram was a teacher. They say that when he set up his camp out in the wilderness, out in the desert, he had 4 doorways into his house, one from each direction, so that anyone coming down the path could come in, and guess what Avram would do? He'd teach them. What did he teach them? Torah. Isn't that beautiful? He would feed them, and then he would, if they needed clothes, he would clothe them. He would heal them if they're sick, and then he would feed them the word of Yah. I think it's beautiful. And Yahweh appeared to Avram, and he said, to your seed, I give this land. And he built there a slaughter place to Yahweh, who had appeared to him. And from there, he moved to the mountains east of Bethel, which is Bethlehem, the house of Yah. The breadbasket of the world is what Bethlehem means. And he pitched his tent in Bethel on the west and Ai on the east, and he built there a slaughter place to Yahweh and called on the name of Yah. And Avram set out, continuing onward to the south, and scarcity of food came to be in the land. And Avram went down to Mitzrayim to dwell there, for the scarcity of food was severe in the land. Have you noticed that every time there's a scarcity of food, they always go to Mitzrayim, to Egypt?
The Nile,
Oh, they do go to the Nile. Who said that?
I did.
Ashton. I thought it was Kaylin. I was like, good job. Okay. Good job, Dad. Okay. And it came to be when he was close to entering Mitzrayim that he said to Sarai, his wife, see, I know that you are a beautiful woman to look at, and it shall be when the Mitzrites see you that they shall say, this is his wife, and they shall kill me, but let you live. Please say you are my sister, so that it shall be well with me for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you. She really was his sister through his father. So were they lying? No, but they are doing a little bit of trickery, right? A little bit of trickery. Okay. And it came to be when Avram came into Mitzrayim that the Mitzrites saw the woman, that she was very beautiful, and Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her before Pharaoh. And the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house, and he treated Avram well for her sake. And he had sheep and cattle and male donkeys and male and female servants and female donkeys and camels. But Yahweh plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Avram's wife. And Pharaoh called Avram, and he said, what is this that you have done to me? And why did you not inform me that she was your wife? Well, read, would you pull up Yahsher 15:31? Oh, wait. Yeah, go ahead. And why did you say, she is my sister? And so I was going to take her for my wife. And look, here is your wife. Take her and go. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. So this Pharaoh had a daughter.
And the king took a maiden who begat by his concubines, and he gave her to Sarai for a handmaid. And the king said to his daughter, it is better for you, my daughter, to be a handmaid in this house, in this man's house, than to be a mistress in my house. And we have beheld the evil that befell us on account of this woman. And go.
Go ahead.
No, you're good.
So this Pharaoh saw, if you go to the book of Yahsher, he actually saw Sarai and Avram hugging and joking around like a husband and wife do. You
I
know,
thought it was a dream. I guess I was wrong. Sorry, you guys. I said that yesterday. I was like, I think it was a dream or something. But yeah, that's what it was.
he spied them out of his window because he had set them a place to live right next to him. He was like, hey, that's not what a brother and sister do. What's going on here?
That's a weird thing.
Yeah, these people from Haran, they need to go back there.
It's like cousins make cousins. Incest is the best. Terrible.
You're wrong. You're just wrong. And Avram went up from Mitzrayim in the south, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him. And Avram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. So this king had just given him sheep and donkeys and, well, I don't think he gave him horses, but camels. He gave him all this stuff plus Hagar. And he went on his journey from the south as far as Bethel to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai. So he made a complete circle back to where he started. He's like, I'm back. I wish that I had some of the old maps that I could put up on the board for y'all to look at and see exactly how old this was, because it really is cool to be able to see and get a visual. So he came to the place of the slaughter place, which he had made there at first, and there Avram called on the name of Yahweh. Now Lot, who was with Avram, also had flocks and herds and tents, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their possessions were great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Avram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. And at that time the Canaanites and the Perizzites dwelt in the land. And then Avram said to Lot, let there be no strife between you and me, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brothers. Is not all the land before you? Please, separate from me. Please go away, is what he's saying. Or if you go to the right, then I will go to the left. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. And Lot lifted his eyes and saw all the plain of the Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere. And before Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Amorah, like the garden of Yahweh, like the land of Mitzrayim, as you go towards Zoar. So Lot chose for himself all the plain of the Jordan, and Lot moved east. Thus they separated from each other. Seth, I want you to read Yahsher 15.
Okay.
36 through 47, because it was more than just too many animals. Lot was not, he was not a man after Avram. He didn't follow in Avram's footsteps. He wasn't raised by Noah. He wasn't raised by Shem. He wasn't taught Torah. The Avram, I'm sure, has tried teaching him.
And when Avram was dwelling in the land of the herdsmen of Lot, quarreled with the herdsmen of Avram, for their property was too great for them to remain together in the land, and the land could not bear them on the account of their cattle. And when Avram's herdsmen went to feed their flock, they would not go into the fields of the people of the land, but the cattle of Lot's herdsmen did otherwise, for they were suffered to feed in the fields of the people of the land. And the people of the land saw this occurrence daily. And they came to Avram and quarreled with him on the account of Lot's herdsmen. And Avram said to Lot, "What is this that you are doing to me? To make me despicable to the inhabitants of the land, that you order your herdsmen to feed your cattle in the fields of other people? Do you not know that I am a stranger in the land amongst the children of Canaan? And why will you do this unto me?" And Avram quarreled daily with Lot on this account, but Lot would not listen to Avram. And he continued to do the same, and the inhabitants of the land came and told Avram, and Avram said unto Lot, "How long will you be for a stumbling block with your inhabitants of the land? Now I beseech you that let there be no more quarreling between us, for we are kinsmen. But I pray you separate from me, and go choose a place where you may dwell with your cattle and all that belonging to you. But keep yourself at a distance from me, you and your household, and be not afraid in going from me. But for if anyone do an injury to you, let me know, and I will avenge you. Cause from him only remove me." And when Avram had spoken all these words to Lot, and then Lot arose and lifted up his eyes toward the plains of the Jordan, and he saw that the whole place of this place was well watered, and good for man, as well as affording pasture for the cattle. And then Lot went from Avram to the place, and there pitched a tent, and he dwelt in Sodom, and they were separated from each other. And Avram dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Chevron, and he pitched his tent there, and Avram remained there many years.
So do you see what he was doing? Lot was causing Avram to be a stench in all the people's nostrils, right? They're like, oh, huh?
What did you just read?
He read from Yahsher
36 to 47.
15.
15. So that gives you the rest of the story, what was going on behind. And so it's really fascinating when you go forward. It says, so Avram dwelling in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelling in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent as far as Sodom. But the men of Sodom were evil, and they sinned before Yahweh exceedingly so. And after Lot had separated from Abraham, Yahweh said to Abraham, "Now lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward. For all the land you see, I shall give to you and your seed forever." So finally, when he separates away from Lot, sometimes things that do not feel good at the time in a family, sometimes they're meant for good later on, okay? So sometimes we go through some really heartbreaking things, but Yah has got it in his hands, huh?
To grow from it.
You grow from it.
Yep.
So now, Abraham is going to be blessed when he is finally separated from Lot, because Lot was causing problems. He was what'd you say a while ago? Stiff-necked. He was-
Stiff-necked people.
And we see that the only reason Yah saved Lot when he did was because of what?
Abraham's intercession.
That's it was Abraham's righteousness. He said, because of righteous Abraham, I'm going to save Lot and whoever else wants to come with him. But you're right. That's exactly what it was. Okay, and I'm in 16, I'm in 13:16, and I shall make your seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could count the dust of the earth, then your seed also could be counted. Arise, walk in the land through its length and its width, for I give it to you. So Abraham moved his tent, and he went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built a slaughter place there to Yahweh. So in Hebron is where they originally built the first temple, was in Hebron, and it really was pretty there. 14. And it came to be in the days of Amraphel, and this is Nimrod, sovereign of Shinar, Arioch, sovereign of Elasar, Kedorla Omar, sovereign of Elam, and Tidal, sovereign of Goyim, of the Gentiles. There you go, Jerry. There's those Gentiles. That they fought against Bera, sovereign of Sodom, Bersha, sovereign of Amorah, Shinob, sovereign of Admah, Shem Eber, sovereign of Zoiboyim, and the sovereign of Bela, that is Zoar. And these joined together in the valley of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. 20 years they served Kedor La Amar. In the 13th year they rebelled, sir.
Is it 12?
Oh, 12. Oh, thank you. 12 years, thank you. They served Kela La Amar. In the 13th year they rebelled. They're like, we've had enough of you, Kela La Amar, whatever your name. And in the 14th year, Kela La Amar and the sovereign that were with him came, and they struck the Raphaim in Ashtaroth, Cornaim, and the Zurim in Ham, and the Emites in Shawah, Kiriathim. They're striking the giants, guys. This is who they're striking. The Zurim and the Raphaim, these are all parts of the giants. And the Horites in their mountain of Seir, as far as El Paran, which is by the wilderness, and they turned back and came to in Mizpah, that is Kadesh, and struck all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites who dwelt in Hatzon Tamar. And I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to skip down to 13. And one who had escaped came and informed Abram the Hebrew. This is the first time we see him called the Hebrew. What does Hebrew mean? Crossed over. He who crossed over. So he crossed over, evidently, maybe the Jordan, maybe some river, but he crossed over, and he is now called the Hebrew. For he dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Anar, and they had a covenant with Avram. Now, I want to bring about one more thing. Og. Ooh. Og is killed by Moshe much later on. But I want to tell you that Og was also an Amorite. Okay? The Amorites were very tall men, maybe called giants, but the Targum tells us that there's a possibility that Og could have made it through the flood, and he was still in existence after the flood. And because of the kindness shown him by Noah, that he was good to Noah's family. Now that is in the Targum. I don't have any other second witness to that. And what we do in here is we always go by second witness in Scripture. I can't find a second witness. So, don't know if that's factual, but it is in the Targum. Okay?
It's hard to imagine him surviving the flood.
Well, supposedly he was a giant, and he rode on top of the ark, and Noah fed him. It's what the Targum says, that he kept him alive through that. But when you read of how harsh the ride was.
Yeah.
I just don't see how that was possible, but I'm telling y'all, it is in the Targum, but I have found no other witness to that, okay? Yes, sir.
Where's the Targum?
The Targum is the Aramaic, thank you, it's the Aramaic translation of the Hebrew scriptures. And the thing is, Ken, there's different Targums. You've got the Palestinian Targum, you've got the Jerusalem Targum, and you've got the Babylonian Targum. So there's, I think, 2 or 3 different Targums. Is that right, Ashton?
I believe so, yeah.
So, and they do read a tad bit different. And I don't find this story in 2 of the other Targums. I only found it in, I think, which one is
The
that?
Aramaic.
Well, but it's in the Targum, I think it's from Babylon. Or is it Jerusalem?
I don't know.
I don't think it's in Jerusalem. I could be wrong there.
Okay, so it's in the Palestinian.
Yeah.
It's probably in the Palestinian one. But if we can find a second witness, it would make sense. But the Targum actually says that Og is the man from the Amorites who came and spoke to Avram. But I don't see that Og is a brother to Eshcol or Aner. So I looked it up and I couldn't find him as a brother to either of these guys unless it was a separate name. So I'm just telling y'all, this is in the Targum, can't prove it. Okay? But Og was an Amorite. So he was from the same tribe. And they were giants. And and obviously Avram had a covenant with these giants, the Amorites. So it was one of those who escaped from all these kings that came and said, Avram, your nephew Lot, he's been captured. So that was a good covenant to have. When Avram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his 318 trained servants who were born in his own house. And he went in pursuit as far as Dan. And that would be up in the northern part of Israel. So he went a pretty good distance. And he and his servants divided against them by night, struck them, and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is on the left of Damascus. That's like in Syria, isn't it? And so he brought back all the goods. He also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as the women and the people. So you see here, he's calling Lot his brother. What did he tell Lot's sister Sarah to call him? Brother. So this was commonplace. I hear a lot of people go, well, he was lying. No, he really wasn't. This is what they called each other. And after his return from striking Kedor La-Amar and the sovereigns who were with him, the sovereign of Sodom came out to meet him in the valley of Shewah, and that is the sovereign's valley. Go to Yahsher 16:11 through 12. And the Melchizedek, sovereign of Salem, of Shalem, brought out bread and wine, and now he was the priest of the Most High. What does Yahsher 16:11 say?
It says, and the Adonai Sadok, king of Jerusalem, was the same as Shem, went out with his men to meet Avram and his people, with the bread and wine, and they remained together in the valley of Melech. And Adonai Sadok blessed Avram, and Avram gave him the tenth of all that he had brought from the spoil of his enemies. For Adonai Sadok was a priest before Elohim.
So the Melchizedek was Shem. He was king of Jerusalem. He was the high priest of El. He was the only one that was teaching the Torah. And so we see in the book of Yahsher that this was Shem. Jerry, you got that look on your face.
No,
Okay. Okay. So what is fascinating to me is that what did Abraham give him? 10% of everything. He was the 10th generation from Shem. Is that not cool?
Yeah.
So it's like, you because of you, Shem, I've been born, right? Because he's in his lineage. And so he's given him 10% of everything that he took, that the other kings didn't take back. So it's beautiful. But this is also where the 10% tithe comes from, right? And blessed, well, I skipped all this. And Melchizedek, sovereign of Shalom, brought out bread and wine, and now he was the priest of the Most High El. And he blessed him, and he said, Blessed be Avram of the Most High El, possessor of the heavens and earth, and blessed be the Most High El, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him a tenth of all. And the sovereign of Sodom said to Avram, Give me the people and take the goods for yourself. And I love what Avram says here. Avram said to the sovereign of Sodom, I have lifted my hand to Yahweh, the Most High El, the possessor of the heavens and earth, not to take a thread or a sandal strap of whatever is yours, lest you should say, I have made Avram rich, except only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me. Aner, Ashkel, and Mamre, let them take their portion. So these are the giants of the Amorites. This is who he's saying. These guys are going to take their portion because they went and helped me capture. And so I want to look at some Hebrew writings. Tiffany, can you do Hebrews 6:20? And Wesleyan, do you want to read for me?
Oh, no.
Did you say, oh yeah?
Oh, no.
Oh no. Oh, no. Jack.
Oh,
Would you read Hebrews 7:15 through 16? Oh, Valerie's. Hi, Valerie. She's texting us for some reason. I like it when she texts. Oh, wow. Jessica, that is so cool.
Isn't that awesome?
That is so cool. I'm going to try to send this to my email and try to get it up on the screen because that is so beautiful. Did you share it to the group?
I did.
Oh, that is beautiful. Valerie, would you share it to our online? She knows how to do that. I don't. I'm just dumb. Okay, Tiff, you ready?
Okay. So 20, where Yahusha has entered up as a forerunner for us, having become high priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek.
So he has become the high priest according to the order of Melchizedek. Okay, and Jack.
was it 14 through 16 or?
It's 7:15 through 16. Or if you want to do 14, you can.
Oh, okay. We're perfectly clear that our master arose from Yehuda, a tribe about which Moshe never spoke of concerning priesthood. And this is clearer still if another priest arise in the likeness of Melchizedek, who has become not according to the Torah of fleshly command, but according to the power of an endless life. What he does with you. You are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek.
And so this is our Savior. Now, last week, Ashton, you brought up the fact that, okay, let's go down to 8. While we're over here in Hebrews, let's go to 8. 1. It says, now the summary of what we are saying is we have such a high priest who is seated at the right hand of the throne of the greatness in the heavens and who serves in the set apart place and the true tent which Yahweh set up and not man. So when Moshe was writing down all the descriptions of what he was going to build when he came back, he was copying what Yah had built, the holy place. For every high priest is appointed to offer both gifts and slaughters, so it was necessary for this one to have somewhat to offer. What did Yahusha offer? Himself. Himself. For if indeed, I want you to listen to this, if indeed he were on earth, he would not be a priest. This is talking about Yahusha. He is in the heavenlies. He is not just in the heavenlies. He's in the Holy of Holies. He's interceding on behalf of all of his children, everyone that Yahweh has given to him. So if he were on earth, when he comes back the second time, what is he coming back as?
King.
King, and he's coming back with a rod of iron, and we better be ready to be obedient, because it tells us in the millennial reign we will be following Torah. at the end of the millennial reign comes the judgment seat. And if you weren't following it during then, you're going to wish you were, because you're going to be one of those that says, oh, we need to repent, but we're not getting into the kingdom. Okay? So, since there are priests who offer the gifts according to the Torah, who serve a copy and shadow of the heavenly, as Moshe was warned when he was about to make the tent. For he said, see that you make all according to the pattern shown you on the mountain. The Zadok priest will rule and reign during the millennial period. And Zadok are part of the Aaronic priest, but not all of the Aaronic priests will be high priests. They can't. Why? They followed Talmud. What else did they do? They set up little Elohim in the temple. Listen, what does it say about these pastors? Pastors, wow. Oops, slip. The ones that lead the sheep astray. They're carrying the sheep to the dry fields. They have no water. They have no grass. These were the Aaronic priests. They were just in it for what? The money, right? Okay. That is in Ezekiel. I wish we had more time because it would be a really good study right now. Okay, we're back over in the Torah portion. So we see that Avram has given to the Melchizedek, to Shem, 10% of everything he took. So he is paying homage to him. We're starting in 15. We're going to make it, guys, I think. After these events, the word of Yahweh came to Avram in a vision, saying, do not be afraid, Avram. I am your shield. Your reward is exceedingly great. And Avram said, Master Yahweh, what would you give me, seeing I go childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? And Avram said, see, you have given me no seed. And see, one born in my house is my heir. He's like, I want an heir from my own loins. I want a son. And see, the word of Yahweh came to him, saying, this is not your heir, but he who comes from your own body is your heir. And he brought him outside, and he said, look now toward the heavens and count the stars, if you are able to count them. And he said to him, so are your seed. Look, guys, look all over the world. The majority is his seed. More numerous than the stars of the heavens are the house of Israel. They were 600,000 just men that crossed over the Jordan, not counting the women and the children. Can you imagine how many there are now? We're abundant, like the stars of the heavens. We're Abraham's seed. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, and he believed in Yahweh, and he reckoned it to him for righteousness. If you believe, you're going to what? Do. You're going to obey. He believed him, and it was reckoned to him for righteousness. And he said to him, I am Yahweh, who brought you out of the Ur of Kasdim to give you this land and to inherit it. And he said, Master Yahweh, whereby do I know that I possess it? And he said to him, bring me a 3-year-old heifer and a 3-year-old female goat and a 3-year-old ram and a turtle dove and a young pigeon. And he took all these to him and cut them in the middle and placed each half opposite the other, but he did not cut the birds. And the birds of prey came down on the carcasses, and Avram drove them away. And it came to be when the sun was going down and a deep sleep fell upon Avram, that see, a frightening great darkness fell upon him. And he said to Avram, know for certain that your seed are to be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and they shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. But the nation whom they serve I am going to judge, and afterward let them come out with great possessions. And that is shown in Exodus 12:36. When Israel comes out, what do the Egyptians do? They're like, here, take this, but just go. Take my pearls, take my jewels, take my horses, take my camels, just go. Please, just leave. Take anything you want of mine, just go. They're paying them to leave. Get them out of this land. And they do. They pillage everything. They take it with them. Now, as for you, you are to go to your fathers in peace, and you are to be buried at a good old age. And then in the 4th generation, They shall return here, for the crookedness of the Amorites is not yet complete. And it shall be when the sun went down and it was dark, that see a smoking oven and a burning torch passing between these pieces. This was Yahsher, wasn't it? On the same day, Yahweh made a covenant with Avram, saying, I have given this land to your seed from the river of Mitzrayim to the great river, the river Euphrates, with the Canaanite and the Kenizzite and the, what is that word? And the Hezite, the Perizzite, and the Raphaim, and the Amorite, and the Kenizzite, and the Girgashite, and the Jebusite. Enough to make you cough. All the sites. Excuse me. 16. And Sarai, Avram's wife, had borne him no child, and she had a Mitzrayim female servant whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Avram, see, Yahweh has kept me from bearing children. Please go into my female servant. It might be that I'm to build upon her. And Avram listened to the voice of Sarai. Any man would. I'm just saying. Excuse me. And Sarai, Avram's wife, took Hagar, her female servant, the Mitzrian, and gave her to her husband, and Avram to be his wife. And after Avram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and he went to Hagar, and she conceived, and when she saw that she conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. Jealousy. And Sarai said to Avram, did y'all tell her or Avram to, won't you get a concubine?
No.
No. This was their own devising.
Breaking commandments.
Yes. And Sarai said to Avram, my wrong be upon you. I gave my female servant into your bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Let Yahweh judge between you and me. Now, guys, we're talking about a princess. Hagar was a princess. Mm-hmm. She wasn't just a girl on the street. She wasn't a servant girl. She was a princess in the Pharaoh's house. So she was pretty much treated as royalty, right? Mm-hmm. And here she is, a servant girl to Sarai. So she was already probably a bit jealous, and now that she knows that she's going to give the heir to Avram, she wants everything. She despised Sarai. She wanted everything. She wanted to be his wife. She wanted to be his heir. She wanted to be everything, right? And Avram said to Sarai, see, your female servant is in your hand. She's like, I gave you my female servant. And look, now she despises me. He said, no, your female servant is in your hand. Do to her what is good. He just took himself out of the hot seat. Smart man. Whatever is good in your eyes. And Sarai treated her harshly, and she fled from her presence. And the messenger of Yahweh. Who's the messenger of Yahweh? It's Yahusha. It's our Savior. It's our Redeemer. He was there the whole time, from the beginning. We see that in the first book of Adam and Hua, when he sent his word. It's the word. This is his breathed out memory, the word of Yah. So the messenger of Yah found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarah's female servant. Ooh, you think she wanted to hear that? He said, where have you come from? And where are you going? And she said, I am fleeing from the presence of Sarai, my mistress. And the messenger of Yahweh said to her, run. He should have said run. He said, return to your mistress and humble yourself under her hand. He's saying, go back, be obedient, be humble before her. And the messenger of Yahweh said to her, I'm going to increase your seed greatly, too numerous to be accounted. Oh, what are they? They're the Arabics. They are the Arabs. And the messenger of Yahweh said to her, see, you are conceiving and bearing a son, and shall call his name Yishmael, because Yahweh has heard your affliction. And he is to be a wild man. What does that mean? He's not going to be a servant man. He's going to be wild. He's going to do his own thing. His hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. And he shall dwell over against all his brothers. Do you know Ishmael did dwell next to Avram? to Yishak. He did. They were actually good friends in the end. They turned out to be good friends. And she called the name of Yahweh who spoke to her. She said, "You are the El who sees." For she said, "Even here I have seen after him who sees me." That is why the well was called Ber Laha Roy. See, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Avram a son, and Avram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Yishmael. Yah who hears. That's what that means. Yishmael, Yah who hears. And Avram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Yishmael to Avram. Wow, it's going to be another 14 years before he has his own child. And it came to be when Avram was 99 years old that Yahweh appeared to Avram and said to him, "I am El Shaddai. Walk before me and be perfect. And I give my covenant between me and you and shall greatly increase you." And Avram fell on his face, and Elohim spoke to him, saying, he's worshiping Yah, isn't he? He's fallen on his face. He says, "As for me, look, my covenant is with you, and you shall become a father of many nations. And no longer is your name to be called Avram, just a father, but your name shall be Avraham." So it's plural. You are the father of many nations. It's actually the nation, the word nation, what does it mean?
People.
Peoples? It means, yes. Chase, was that you? Yes, it is Gentiles. So nations means Gentiles. So he is the father of many Gentiles. Isn't that crazy? Many of those who are not under the covenant. And he said, "I shall make you exceedingly fruitful and make nations of you, and sovereigns shall come from you. I shall establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be Elohim to you and your seed after you. And I shall give to you and your seed after you the land of your sojournings, all of the land of the Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I shall be their Elohim." And Elohim said to Avram, "As for you, guard my covenant, you and your seed after you, throughout this generation." Throughout their generations. He said, "This is my covenant with you, which you guard between me and you, your seed after you. Every male child among you is to be circumcised. And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall become a sign of the covenant between you and me. And a son of 8 days is circumcised by you, every male child of your generations. He who is born in your house or bought with silver from any foreigner who is not of your seed, he who is born in your house and he who is bought with your silver has to be circumcised. So shall my covenant be with your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And an uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, his life shall be cut off from the people. He has broken my covenant." And Elohim said to Abraham, "As for Sarah, your wife, do not call her name Sarah, for Sarah is her name. It's from my princess to everyone's princess, Sarah. And I shall bless her and also give you a son by her. And I shall bless her, and she shall become nations. Sovereigns of people are to be from her." And Abraham fell on his face, and he laughed. I bet he did. I'm 99, she's 89. You think Abba, you've got such a sense of humor. Avram fell on his face and he laughed, and he said in his heart, "Is a child born to a man who is 100 years old? Or is Sarah, who is 99 years old, to bear a child?" And Avram said to Elohim, "Oh, let Yishmael live before you." And Elohim said, "No. Sarah, your wife, is truly bearing a son to you, and you shall call his name Yahsher. And I shall establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant with his seed after him. And as for Yishmael, I have heard you. And see, I shall bless him, and I shall make him fruitful and greatly increase him. He is to bring forth 12 princes, and I shall make him a great nation. But my covenant I establish with Yishak, whom Sarah is to bear for you at this appointed time next year. Who's the promised son? Yishak. Do you know, and we're going to see this in this next one, but in the next Torah portion, it may be the one after that, when Abraham carries his son up to the mountain to be sacrificed, do you think they went alone? Who else do you think may have gone?
Servants.
Ishmael, who else?
Servants.
Who else was possibly his heir? Eleazar. So he carried Eleazar, Ishmael, and Yishak. That's who went up the mountain. And when they saw the mountain and I think it was a cloud on the mountain, he said, who sees that? And only Yishak saw it. So Yishak was the one that went up the mountain. Okay, because he was the one that was chosen. Do you know why? 8 days, and then you're circumcised. Vitamin K. So science has proven that vitamin K is the highest point in a body at 8 days old. And so there's less bleeding. But vitamin K causes clotting. So when they circumcise the babies on the 8th day, the bleeding would be very minor.
It's also a little bit pathetic. So after the 6 days that God created the world, and then the 7th day of rest, there's an 8th day that
Yes.
happens in the millennial reign, and that 8th day is when peace is established. And so to me, it's also
Shemini Azeret
Yeah.
is the 8th day. and that's also part of the celebration of Sukkot.
Exactly.
Is the 8th day.
Well, they're trying to take it out of code now, I guess, because at the hospitals, they try to get the pediatrician to do it the 2nd week to the 3rd week of a little boy being born. They don't like to do it in the hospital anymore.
Oh, really?
You have to ask, they'll tell you that there's no pediatrician that'll do it. And then they'll try to push it to 3 months to 6 months. They
We're
try to
trying
do
to
it.
do it immediately.
Yeah, they don't want to do it
Whatever they can
immediately.
do to make it not on that 8th day.
Yeah.
Well, when I had my son, he was circumcised before we left the
Yeah.
So
the hospital.
so is the boys, but now they with Duke, they were like, well, you need to find a pediatrician. I was like, no, just do you.
They piecemeal everything out now, don't they? I mean,
They corrupt.
you're at a foot doctor and you got a toe problem, you gotta go to the toe doctor. I don't know. Nothing makes sense. So guys, do you see the beauty of where Abraham ended up from being raised? Listen, if he'd been raised by Tarak,
Bad deal,
would he be blessed at this point?
I know it's like Nehemiah, but it also has to do with cleanliness. Like your heart's clean, circumcised, but when you're not circumcised, like a male, like it causes infection,
Yes.
and so it has to do with like sin being the infection
Yes.
and a virus, and so it's like it has to do with cleanliness. You need to be clean.
And we are all
And pure.
circumcised of heart.
That's
We
right.
all have to be circumcised of heart. So it is spiritual, it is physical, it's all about cleanness in the heart,
Mm-hmm.
in the spirit. So yes, it is very deep. Excuse me. Does anybody have any questions over the Torah portion? Since I've only kept you here 2 hours and 7 minutes and 50 seconds. No? Anybody want to add anything to what we've already studied? No? Anyone? Ashton?
No, I think it's interesting when you look at it from all these perspectives with the extra books, because it explains so much.
You dig and you just discover the fullness of Yah.
Whenever he actually takes Isaac up, and you go into Yahsher as to what Sarah was going through, it's
Yes.
almost brings a tear to your eye.
Well, he never saw Sarah again.
Yeah. And
She was
she's
dead.
wandering these cities looking for her son because she knows she thinks what's going to happen.
She knew. Well, Satan had visited her, and he said, "Do you know what that crazy old man's doing to your son?" That's pretty much what he said. Do you know what the crazy old man's doing? He's taking your son up there to sacrifice him. He's a great deceiver. He's deceived many today, and he has deceived many, and he will continue to deceive. Because that's his job, to try to trick us into turning our backs on his Torah. Most people he didn't have to work with. Their backs are turned. So they're exactly, I hear a lot of people say, well, life is going really great for me. Well, then Abba's not testing you. Because he only tests the one he loves.
Says that everywhere.
It does.
Hebrews.
Especially in Hebrews 12. If he's not testing you, if you're not going through some trials, if you're not being put into the fire and then brought out and all the dross beat out of you, and sometimes I feel more beat than I do other times, but if you're not being honed down into something that's precious, then he's treating you as an illegitimate child. Not my words. It's his words, and let's just read it real quick so that nobody thinks I'm being ugly.
You being ugly.
I'm being ugly again. In Hebrews 12, it's on page 1176. And we're going to start in 4. You have not yet resisted unto blood, striving against sin. And you have forgotten the appeal which speaks to you as to sons. My son, do not despise the discipline of Yahweh, nor faint when you are reproved by him. For whom Yahweh loves, he disciplines, and he flogs every son whom he receives. If you endure discipline, Yahweh is treating you as sons. For what son is there whom a father does not discipline? But if you are without discipline, of which all have become sharers, because you're not under discipline, then you are illegitimate, and you're not at all sons. Moreover, we indeed had fathers of our flesh disciplining us, and we paid them respect. This has been my question. My dad, I respected him, I obeyed him. Why would anyone think that the creator of my dad and everyone else, why would anyone think that when he gives us rules and instructions to help you live long and prosper, why would anyone want to go against what he's telling us to do? Well, I want to eat that ham, okay? I'm sorry. I know you're telling me not to eat it because it will lead to death. Look at the people around us who are sick. I want to eat that pork chop.
Well, in Isaiah 66:17.
Well, a lot of people
Yes,
also
that
have
hiding and
fathers.
eating that almost sounds like is it CRISPR technology where they're combining
The
a
chimera
rat
cells.
and a pig?
Mhm.
Because hiding and eating the flesh of the rat and
Yes.
the pig,
Mm-hmm.
I think they have come up with a pig that reproduces like a rat. Does that sound right?
I don't know.
No,
They came
everybody's-
up with a
everybody's
sheep and a
like-
pig. They came up with a sheep and a pig together. So.
Oh yeah. Does it grow fur, wool?
No.
How do you
I take that as
It's
other unclean 4-foot creatures.
Yeah.
It says eat swine's flesh and that of the mouse. I think it's, and I have to look into that a little bit deeper, but I think it's saying other 4
They're hiding.
unclean animals.
They're hiding in their garden,
Squirrels, a rabbit.
eating the things that are not food. And Yah abhors it. Listen, he tells us in Leviticus, he says, look, if you're eating of the pig, you're an abomination. And what does it tell us in Revelation? Nothing abominable is coming through the gates into the kingdom. That's Revelation 21. It says the gates are open continually.
And then Proverbs 28:9, he who turns away his ear from hearing the Torah, even his prayers an abomination. So if you're not even hearing it, let alone doing it, you're
Your
an
prayers-
abomination. You
Yep.
won't listen to your prayers.
And is it Leviticus 20?
And and look what the world dishes up. I mean, they dish it up in large quantities, and everything is some kind of gelatin, glycerin, pork, something.
Yeah, more than what I ever realized.
Remember the 90s campaign, the other white meat, I mean,
Yeah.
y'all remember that campaign?
No.
Yeah.
You're older than I am. So. Jack's like, remember that? I'm like, no.
Okay, here's
I
Revelation.
remember it, Jack.
I remember it, but I'm older than you. Here's Leviticus 20, verse 25. And you shall make a distinction between clean beasts and unclean, and between unclean birds and clean, and do not make yourselves abominable by beasts. Do not make yourselves abominable by beasts. If you're eating things that are not food, then you are what you eat. Oink, oink. He said, or whatever creeps on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean, you shall be set apart to me, for I am set apart, and I have separated you from the peoples. So if we are to be set apart as Yah is set apart, we cannot be doing the things that he says don't do. I mean, that's why I'm like, Hebrews 12. The writer of Hebrews tells us we followed our earthly father's commandments. Why would you not follow the Creator's commandments? They're much more important. They're much more life-giving than our earthly father.
I seen a deal the other day, there were over 20,000 something laws and codes in the United States.
It's this tall. You want a book of laws. You're under a book of laws. It goes from the floor up to here. The code book of the laws of the United States.
Federal
Are
regulations.
Yeah. So you're under laws, and you don't want under the laws that free you. I've never been freer than being under the Torah of my Father. It has set me free. I've got peace every single day. It doesn't matter. And Seth can tell you, we've got peace. The whole world can be falling apart, right, Sherry?
Right.
But we've got peace. Shalom.
In Deuteronomy 30:11, it says that it's not too hard to keep the commands.
Would you read that, Ken?
He's like, what did I get myself into? You know, if you bring it up, you gotta read it, son.
He's like, Torn. I saw him back there.
Someone's gotta have a megaphone somewhere.
And you know, that's repeated in Romans.
For this command which I am commanding you today is not too hard for you, nor is it far off.
That's it. It's in your mouth. It's in your heart. It's everywhere around. And then, is it Romans that has it as well?
Yes, Romans 7, I think.
I believe it is. So Paul repeats what Moshe was saying. Moshe said, I'm setting for you today life and death. Choose life, because it is not too hard for you. But what do we hear? Oh, we can't keep, I hear this from preachers. Oh, we can't keep those laws. They're too hard.
If we can keep the laws of the government every day, which there's a lot more of those.
And there-
are laws of-
But what's hard about Torah? Has anyone seen any law in Torah that is too hard to keep?
Nope.
The hard.
Frustrating sometimes, but
Huh?
not hard.
One of
Not
the
frustrating because of the law, though. It's frustrating because I'm throwing away vitamins, I'm throwing away
yes.
soaps, I'm throwing away cream, all this stuff in our house.
Look at our
It's not the law
clothes.
that's hard, it's just I have all these things I shouldn't have had.
Look at our clothes, Ashton, because
Yeah.
don't mix the materials.
Yeah.
Don't mix wool with linen. So everything, polyester, spandex, rayon,
Corduroy.
Wait, what?
corduroy.
Is that for real? Corduroy? I thought it was like cotton.
What is corduroy?
I
I used to wear corduroy.
love corduroy.
I
Every
do
time you
too.
walk, it's like starting fire.
Oh, you crazy girl. Okay. So guys, listen. He's telling us that he tests us because he loves us, right? In excuse me, Deuteronomy 8, verse 3. I'm going to start in 2. And you shall remember that Yahweh your Elohim led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you, to prove you, and to know what is in your heart, whether you guard his commands or not. He's still doing that today, guys. He tests us to see what's in our heart. Are you going to be obedient? Are you not going to be obedient? It's the same thing today, and I'm going to tell you. What I see going on with you young parents and your children here, what y'all are creating, I'm looking at these little ones right now. Some of them are not so little anymore. They're getting tall, so tall I have to look up to them. But what you're creating in these children is a love for his commandments and for his law and for him, which we didn't have. We were the ones that got all caught up in the cognizant
Dissonance.
dissidence. Say it for a whole word.
Cognitive dissonance.
Thank you.
Cognitive dissonance. We can't believe that what we've been taught all our life has been a bunch of lies.
And that leads to confirmation bias, which causes you to reinforce those lies
Yes,
in your own mind.
yes. So it took us a while to come out. It took me a while to come out because there were no teachers. There were no people. I was pretty much solo. I hear,
I heard
Yes.
that. I think it's my phone.
okay, that's good because I was like,
cat in there.
is he coming for us now? We're ready. On the clouds with children singing.
Kitty cat.
So guys, y'all are doing a beautiful thing with your children in teaching and raising them up to chase, not walk, to chase after Yahweh. You know what I mean?
Claire, I can do it.
Yeah. So yeah, they're like, she's lost it. She has lost it. So guys, what does Abba want from us? Deuteronomy 10:12. What does he want from us? It is so simple. And now, Yisrael, all of you guys, Israel, what is Yahweh your Elohim asking of you? What is he asking of you? That's it. Boil it down in a nutshell, and it's obedience. He says, fear Yahweh your Elohim, walk in his ways, and love him and serve Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, to guard his commandments of Yahweh and his laws, which I command you today, for your good. It's that easy. It is literally that simple. And what kind of father would give you something too hard for you to do? Not a very loving father, I can tell you. That's not our father. Our father loves us. And everything he has given to us is to bless us, to protect us, and to make us walk like he does. I've got someone making faces at me over here. And I'm trying to make them back, and I can't talk and chew gum at the same time. So guys, no more questions? All right, let's pray out. Abba Yah, Father, we love you so very, very much. Father, we love your Sabbath that you have given to us to rest and to spend time with you. And Father, to draw nearer to you. This day when we're praising and worshiping Abba, I just feel your presence, your spirit just filling the room and everyone in it. Father, we love you and we praise you and we thank you for the blessings you've given us. Thank you for this family that we can study together. We can dive deep together. Sometimes they dive way deeper than I can go. I just can't swim that deep yet. So Father, I just thank you that you've given these kids such a hunger for your word, and that Father, you're giving them the knowledge and the understanding of what you're asking. Father, bless each family here today. Bless our extended family members, Father. Bless everyone on the road today. And Father, we ask that you bless the food that we're about to eat. We bless your name, your holy, set apart name, Father. Let us do everything to make you proud of your children. In the precious, holy name of our Savior and our soon coming King, Yahushua HaMashiach, we pray these things. Amen.
Amen. I
And
need to line up first.
what do we say?
Shabbat.
Shalom. We will be back this evening, guys. We will be teaching this evening on the first book of Adam and Noah. Be there or be square. I can't get it off. Okay,